The Biggest Loser is the perfect example of why extreme weight loss does not work. Anyone can lose weight from a crash diet, but keeping it off, that's a different story. And that's what I'm getting into in today's video. And I'm also just going to give a general overview of the Biggest Loser documentary on Netflix. Hi, I'm Vanessa. Welcome to my channel. I'm a registered health and exercise practitioner. I lost 80 pounds through diet and exercise, and now I help others do the same. Losing that weight was the hardest thing I ever did in my entire life up until now. It took discipline, motivation. There were days where there was a snowstorm outside and I had to walk to the gym, but I still showed up for myself. There were days where my muscles were hurting, where I was out of breath. You just feel this pain in your body because you're doing so much work to lose this weight. Yes, it is grueling to lose weight. It is not easy. And then, of course, it takes months before you start to see the results when you're doing it in a sustainable way, right? You might not start losing weight and seeing the change for a few months. So you really have to be consistent and trust the process. And I believe that's where a lot of people do give up. If you've ever lost weight before, you know how it feels, right? It feels really good. You start to look better, you start to fit better in your clothes, you feel better in your body. People around you, they start to notice, they give you compliments. But the real work begins when you need to maintain that weight loss. And I'll be honest here, I regained 30 of those 80 pounds that I lost. And that was a tough time for me. Life happens, circumstances change, and if you cannot keep up with the lifestyle that you had when you were in weight loss mode, then there's no way you're going to be able to maintain that weight loss and your body will regain. It's normal. Research shows that around 80 to 90% of people who lost weight end up regaining most of it. And it doesn't take long, around 1 to 2 years, up to 5, they regain the weight and plus some. It says here that by the 5th year, over 80% of people are right back at their starting point. And sometimes that can actually leave you in an unhealthier state than when you first started. And I'm going to tell you why. When you diet, any diet, it's normal to lose a little bit of lean muscle mass along with fat. The thing is, though, when the weight comes back on, it comes back on as fat first, not as muscle. So over time, your body fat percentage is actually increasing. Scientists call this catch-up fat. Your body is basically saying, we need to refill those fat stores in order to survive, and it gets really efficient at doing that. On top of that, research shows that fat cells actually remember obesity. Even when you've lost weight, your body holds on to a sort of memory that makes it easier for your body to store fat. And then there's this other thing called set point theory, which is basically like a homeostasis for your body. Your body wants to be at a certain weight. And it's this certain weight that your body wants to try to defend and hold. When you lose weight, your metabolism slows down, your hunger hormones ramp up, and every system in your body wants you to be in that comfort zone. This is also why numbers look so different between people who are losing weight. If someone is 400 pounds and they make one small change like cutting back soda, yeah, it's going to be easy for them to drop 20 pounds in, say, 1 week. That's why you see such drastic numbers. They have more body mass, they're burning more calories, and those changes are showing up really quick for them. Whereas if you're 160 pounds and trying to drop 10 pounds, that's a different story. At that weight, your metabolism is more efficient and your body fights harder to hold on. So losing those last 10 pounds, it's probably going to take months, maybe a year. And you really see this when you're watching the Biggest Loser documentary on Netflix. So many of those contestants ended up regaining the weight that they lost, plus adding on a little bit more weight.
I lost 239 pounds in 6 months, 3 weeks, and 5 days. I won the Biggest Loser. I was the world champion of weight loss. I knew everything. Well, apparently not, because here I am.
I actually didn't see people on that documentary who maintained their weight loss. It's just too extreme of a lifestyle to maintain the weight that they lost during the show. You had some contestants saying that they had to work out for 8 hours a day, eating 800 calories just insane. One contestant said they had to burn 6,000 calories per day, just if this is even true. But the extreme measures that they took, yes, created this drastic weight loss. But then when you get back to real life, you're done for basically. That weight's going to start creeping back on very quickly because you no longer have time to work out for 8 hours a day. You're no longer sticking to an 800 calorie diet plan. The documentary is only 3 episodes. So, and I didn't really watch the show, but I don't know if they taught these contestants about emotional eating and about different strategies when it comes to emotional eating and binge eating and learning how to eat whole and nutritious for their body so that they are properly fueled.
You gotta have a good amount of calories. We keep calories at, for women, 1,200, for men, 15 to 2,000. I'd say the trainers may tell you to eat 800 calories a day.
This wasn't about healthy, sustainable weight loss. It was about making good television. It was about drastic numbers on the scale. And that's all it was. Let's talk about the trainers on The Biggest Loser for a second. And I believe the way that they portrayed personal trainers, or the way that the trainers portrayed themselves, is really unrealistic of how trainers are in real life.
They would work you out until you felt like you were going to die.
So unless you faint, puke, or die, keep walking.
Sure, they are there to like push you and motivate you, but they're not going to get in your face like this. And I think that the TV show actually scared people away from going to the gym and hiring a trainer. It actually did a disservice, right? Why would you go sign up for this? Nobody would sign up for this. Remember, this show was all about winning, not about being healthy, not about being sustainable. That wasn't a thing. This was, I don't know, the golden era of reality TV. NBC needed ratings. They're going to do whatever they need to do to get people to tune in and make it as extreme as possible. The temptation challenges, some people are calling them an embarrassment, that they were just making fun of fat people. But to be honest, you are faced with temptations every day in life, whether that's your mother-in-law offering you a cookie, or you're at the office and someone brings in donuts, or it's Thanksgiving and there's 3 different pies to choose from. You are faced with temptations all the time. And it's up to you to have the discipline to know when enough is enough or when to choose differently. Sure, there are times when you can indulge, but there are also times where you don't need to indulge. You don't need to have ice cream every single night. And hey, if you do, like, good on ya, enjoy your ice cream. For the most part, you don't need to have ice cream every single night, maybe every other night. Balance, right? It's all about balance. So you could look at the temptation challenges as, hey, do these contestants have discipline? Show us. But when you're only feeding them 800 calories a day, of course they're going to go for the cookies and the pastries and the cakes. Absolutely, their body is starved. Let's pop back to the methods used on The Biggest Loser. I touched upon this earlier. So contestants were burning something like 6,000 calories a day. How they tracked that, I have no idea. How accurate that was, no idea. Again, they were eating as little as 800 calories. And at one point, one of the contestants said, listen, this is all about winning. And for the 10 days leading up to the final weigh-in, all he had was a detox drink. He wasn't eating, he was starving his body. So when you combine hours of exercise with extreme calorie restriction, of course the numbers are going to drop fast. So some contestants were talking about how their participation on the show actually led them to have an eating disorder. I'm actually going to argue that. If you're 300, 400 pounds, if you're overweight, you already have an eating disorder. You already don't have a good relationship with food. And by losing weight, it doesn't magically fix your relationship with food. That takes inner work and probably working with a professional, or doing some serious inner work with a good self-help book. I recommend Marianne Williamson's A Course in Weight Loss. It's a very spiritual way of weight loss with different ceremonies and rituals. Anyways, I digress, but I'll just pop it right here for anyone that's interested. If food has been your comfort for decades, those patterns don't just disappear, right? If you run to food when you're stressed out, when you're sad, or when you're happy, if you run to food to deal with your emotions, that doesn't just go away. Those instances of stressors are going to pop back up, right? It's all about how you deal with it. And that's something that the show never really dealt with. It focused on the number on the scale. It focused on yelling at the contestants. It focused on starving the contestants. It didn't focus on mindset and behavior. At least I didn't see that. They really did a disservice to these contestants because this approach just wasn't healthy. Nobody in everyday life is at the gym that long doing those grueling workouts, unless you're a professional athlete or you're training for Mr. Olympia. For the average person, like these contestants are, they probably work 9-to-5 jobs, or maybe they're a stay-at-home mom. They have kids and stress and work and a busy schedule. And this approach just doesn't work long-term, as we saw. Just remember, this show was about results on a timeline because it made good TV. Some of the contestants have now turned to taking Ozempic for their weight loss. I just hope that they understand that research is showing that once you stop taking that drug, you're likely to regain the weight once again. So in closing, the science tells us that our body is wired to regain fat after weight loss. The show's trainers weren't realistic and the methods were not healthy. The challenges were built for TV spectacle, and overall, this was not for long-term success. But here's the silver lining. We learned from it. Real, lasting weight loss comes from small, realistic steps. From consistency, from having the proper support, not crash dieting, not grueling, punishing 8-hour workouts, and definitely not by being humiliated on television. So if you want to lose weight, you got to do it the slow and steady way, right? Turtle in the hair. Who do you want to be? Do you want long-lasting success and learn how to make good, healthy choices? Or do you want to do it the fast way, but then regain it a few years later? Remember, anyone can lose weight on an extreme plan. But if you want real results that last, it comes down to building healthy habits that you can live with and follow through with consistently. Small steps, consistency, it's always going to be quick fixes. If you watched the video up until here, please like the video and subscribe. Thank you for watching.